And these ingredients of relationships on purpose, which is relationships that are about giving, not expecting and not getting, and begin to apply some specifics to them. Here are some of those. As always, you begin the process by removing the doubt and the disbelief in your ability to pull it off. You have to know that you can make your relationships work, and that fighting and struggling and impossible relationships do not have to be in the way of things for you. It has nothing to do with others. It's all located within you. You remove the doubt. You affirm aloud that you are entitled to be happy with everyone in your life. Keep that in mind. I am entitled to happiness in every relationship in my life. When doubt creeps in, as it will because you've been taught the big lie, remind yourself that you've been hypnotized to believe that these things are impossible. Send the doubt away. When you send the doubt away, then you'll be able to create magical relationships. And the doubt that it can't happen is the thing that keeps it from happening. Remember, there's doubt, and then there's knowing. There's fear, and then there is love. So doubt and fear are one way, knowing and love are the other. So now you've removed the doubt, and you shift to this magic zone that I've been talking about over and over again on these tapes. Within your mind, and only in your mind, in that corner of freedom where you can think what you want to, you can get images of happiness and fulfillment for all others. You can see yourself sending out love in the face of the opposite that's being directed at you. You can think of the person who's the most difficult for you to imagine being with in a magical relationship. Maybe it's your mother-in-law. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's some difficult person that you just can't. Maybe it's one of your own parents or one of your own children that you've had a tough time with. Maybe it's an aging, inconsiderate grandparent or a coworker or a tyrannical spouse or whatever it is, or an ex-spouse. Imagine now in your mind that you can overcome your inclination to respond with anger and hostility. Try to picture them as who they are on purpose, having shown up in your life at exactly the right time with the exact right personality to teach you how to overcome people like this. You can see them that way. You're not doing this for what you're going to receive. In a magical relationship, each person gives what they want to get, but you suspend the want and you do it from purpose. So this mental practice will become your reality in the physical world. You take that aging, difficult parent or grandparent or in-law. You take that person in your mind and you say, I am going to spend an hour with that person and it's going to be loving. And nothing is going to stop it from being that way because I don't care what I get. That's not about getting. It's about purpose, which is about giving. So I'm just going to give for an hour. And no matter what they give back, it isn't going to be anything that I'm going to embrace. And so they come in and they start telling you how terrible you are and that this doesn't work and wipe your feet and blow your nose and you didn't shave and this didn't work out. And you just reach your arm out and you say, you know, you are terrific. Pointing out that I didn't shave, oh, I needed that today. That's really great. And you're just sending them love. And you bring them a gift and you just tell them how great they are and you remind yourself how sensational they are. And inside, you're reminding yourself, I don't need to make them wrong. They're just who they are. They're just behaving exactly the way I have taught them to behave toward me for an entire lifetime. They need someone to argue with, and I have provided them with that character. I'm not going to provide them with that character today. And before you know it, you have taken an impossible relationship and made it into something grand. I can remember when I used to teach at the university, there were 2 or 3 professors that no one could get along with. Absolutely no one. They were considered impossible people. And they were my greatest friends. And I never had any difficulty with them. And everybody used to come to me and say, how can you get along with Dr. So-and-so? Nobody wants to be around them. And I always used to say to them, I don't have any problem with them because I don't expect anything from them. I just give them what it is that I feel that they need in their life. They just are being obnoxious because they are seeing themselves that way. So when I just send them some love instead of obnoxiousness, and I could get those people to do anything for me. And they would even want to run errands for me. And these were people that no one wanted to even be around. It's an amazing thing that when you stop asking what's in it for me and instead just say, how may I serve? How may I serve? Here is the fullness of God sitting in front of me in the form of someone that I have judged to be obnoxious. Maybe I should stop judging the fullness of God to be obnoxious. Maybe I should see that God showed up in this soul, in this body, in this way, at this time, to teach me something very powerful. Am I getting the lesson? Or am I just one more person who's willing to judge? And the minute that you judge not, you find yourself able to get along with even the toughest of people. How many times I've had to go into a radio studio and been told, you don't want to have to do an interview with this guy. This guy is going to rip you apart. He thinks that your stuff is all nonsense. And I walk in and I don't fill myself with that kind of hostility, that kind of anger and having to defend myself. And they start out with this hostility and this kind of... There are people in the media whose whole career is built upon being obnoxious and being nasty and tearing you down. And when you let them know that this isn't going to happen here, that this is okay, that I understand that you need to do this in other places, but you don't have to do this here. You don't have to do this with me. What's going on with you? And I shift it right around. I remember one guy in Detroit, all he can say his name was Lou Gordon, who had this kind of a reputation. I happen to know his widow today. I mean, he's passed on. And everyone said, you don't want to do the Lou Gordon show. Lou Gordon is going to... And when I started on the show as a guest back in the 1970s when Erroneous Zones first came out, he started right into it. You know, you're skating on thin ice here, Doc. What is all of this stuff? And I stopped right in the middle of it. And I said, Lou, I said, I know that you have to do this. I know that this is your show. And I said, but with me, it's just absolutely not necessary. It's all fine. And he got very peaceful. The more cantankerous he tried to get, the more peaceful I became. And it's like trying to pick a fight with someone who doesn't want to fight, who's just not interested. At the end of the thing, he was inviting me to come back on his show. And I did several times before he passed on, come back on the show, and we became friends. And someone that he respected and I respected. And it was one of the few people that ever got along with him on the air, because I just didn't find it necessary to buy into that. So in creating magical relationships, you find that it's really easy when you don't allow yourself to be sucked into that negativity, and you see the fullness of God in everyone, even those who you perceive to be obnoxious. If you want your relationships to become magical, don't be afraid to ask for guidance, that divine guidance that I talked about earlier. In all of your human relationships, by very quietly and very privately going within to that invisible, divine, organizing intelligence. You'll be guided to give. That's what it's all about. It's about giving, not getting. So begin to do so freely, without expectation. This very day, you can practice this with two different people, perhaps a personal contact and a child. Rather than being in your old skin today, in the old way, give that person precisely what you think they need, based upon how you would most like to be treated. That is, process, first of all, this contact and say, if I were this person, how would I like to be treated? And just for this day, give this one day without any concern about their reaction to you and without any judgment. Just send out a new way of being with that individual. And at the end of the day, see how you feel. Forget about what they say or how they reacted. You're not looking at outcome. How do you feel when you give them what it is that you would like if you were them? This is that God that is within you, that soul, that invisible intelligence, and the giving, loving soul that listens to the voice. It behaves in a way consistent with and is immune to outcomes. It's not what they say that's important. Try the same thing with one of your children or with a child. I can remember doing this with my children on many, many occasions, and this works just miracles for me. Sometimes my children will be really upset, and I always notice how my wife handles it. She's got this instinctive motherly knowing about what a child should receive and shouldn't receive at given moments. And one of the children will be trying to make her feel guilty because she's going away, for example, on a weekend with me. And saying, like, you always go away and you're never there when I want you and you always gone and how come you do... And my inclination inside is to say to the child, look, this is your mother and she doesn't get very much time, and why don't you just stop being so selfish and being always thinking about yourself and blah, 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 you know, all of that kind of stuff. But she never does that. How she responds to that is, because we've talked about it many times, she has this knowing. And the knowing is that they're going to miss her. But they're going to miss mom. Even I'm talking even my teenage daughter will do